Former President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, recently testified before the committee investigating the insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th. The committee described Kushner as being very helpful, which is a polite way of saying he snitched. Melissa J Show. My name is Melissa J, and this is my co-host Melissa J Jr., who is also the lead photographer here at the Melissa J Show. Starting out the show with the big celebrity news that everyone is talking about, actor and terrible rapper Will Smith recently bitch-slapped comedian Chris Rock at the Oscars over a joke that Rock made about Will Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith. And our own Melissa J. Jr. was there at the Oscars to cover the event. Yes, she just recently got her driver's license, and she drove into downtown Hollywood all by herself so she could be there in person. Because I was too hungover to go. And I also wasn't invited, which was the real reason I didn't go. But Melissa J. Jr. was there, and she said that Will Smith behaved even worse than she did when she went to the Muppets concert and barfed on Kermit the Frog. And when an animal who pees on a fire hydrant is behaving better than you are, you have no business being at the Oscars. But to make things even more interesting, right after the slap heard around the world, Will Smith was given the award for Best Actor. And he brought his little dick energy on stage for a second time and gave a nauseating speech where he spent several minutes kissing his own ass over what he had done. And according to Melissa J. Jr., he kissed his own ass even worse than I do on this show, which I found hard to believe, but she was there. Now, as far as the slap goes, while I felt that Chris Rock's joke was inappropriate, as a transgender comic who's had to sit through countless hours of trans bashing at comedy shows and been a good sport about it the entire time, I would like to say directly to Will Smith, get a grip. You're using violence to react to stand-up comedy? Seriously? Maybe next year you can win an award for acting like a grown-up. And that's all that needs to be said about that, so we're just going to keep it moving. In political news this week, Republican Representative Madison Cawthorn recently went on a podcast and made claims that he had been invited to an orgy by a sitting member of Congress, which would give a whole new meaning to the term exploratory committee. But personally, I think the orgy they were inviting him to was just this current session of Congress, since both parties have basically been screwing all of us out of the American dream for years. And in honor of the legislative sodomy that they call governance, I think it's only appropriate that all of the politicians in Washington, D.C. be given sexy new orgy names. So from here on out, Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley will now be known as Chuck Astley. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi will now be known as Nancy Pelosi. Colorado Representative Lauren Boebert will now be known as Lauren Hobart. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer will now be known as Chuck Screwer, while Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell will now be known as Mitch McDonald. And I could go on and on, but since we're short on time for the grand finale, Florida Representative Matt Gaetz will now be known as, wait for it, Matt Gaetz. Since that name alone has more sexual overtones than me standing on a street corner in a pair of fishnet stockings, sucking on a lollipop while I'm chewing bubblegum at the same time. And I've just been advised by our legal department to inform you that statement is not an admission of prostitution, especially if you're a cop. And speaking of what's legal and what's not, the United States Senate recently held confirmation hearings for Supreme Court nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson. And our own Melissa J. Jr. flew out to the confirmation hearings in Washington, D.C. and was there at the Senate. And she said she hadn't seen that many perverts in one room since she worked in a strip club. Not as a stripper, but as a junior accountant. I was the one who was there working as a stripper because we are a sophisticated Los Angeles family. But perhaps the highlight of the entire confirmation hearing came when Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn, whose origin name is Marsha Crackburn, asked Ketanji Brown Jackson what is her definition of a woman. To which Ketanji Brown Jackson sternly replied, "Senator, if you want to see my definition of a woman, all you have to do is watch the Melissa J. Show on YouTube, because Melissa J. is my definition of a real woman." Those were her exact words. Melissa J. Jr. was there, and if you can't trust an imaginary dog to bring you the news, then who can you trust? However, it is with great pride that we can announce that Ketanji Brown Jackson passed her confirmation and is now the first ever black woman to serve on the Supreme Court. And here's a picture that Melissa J. Jr. took of the Honorable Ketanji Brown Jackson at her confirmation hearing. And before we get out of here, we here at the show would also like to say how much we are looking forward to the day when we will see the first ever transgender justice to serve on the Supreme Court so they can overturn the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida, as well as the new law in Texas that makes transgender healthcare child abuse. But we're going to have a special episode devoted entirely to that new Texas law coming out next week. And rest assured, I will definitely be kissing my own ass in that episode as well. And to everyone watching at home, thank you so much for your time. Please remember to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to press the like button and leave a comment in the comments section. We would love to hear from you, and we'll see everybody next time.